If you've been feeling the call to write a book, it is no accident. Your book is needed in the world, so let's make it happen. I'm Nicola Humber, and this is the Unbound Writers Club. Hello and welcome to the Unbound Writers Club. Today I am joined by one of our authors at the Unbound Press, the incredible Kelly Moss. Kelly is author of The Second Childhood, which is kind of part memoir, part manifesto. This book invites us into a more sustainable way of living built on joy, play, freedom, connection, and women's wisdom. Kelly is somebody that I personally find so inspiring. She really models everything that she's talking about in her book in such a powerful way. Right from our first connection, which was back at the end of 2022, I just found her really compelling, and everything she shares is, like I say, so inspiring. She really lives in this incredible unbound way. So I'm excited for you to meet her if you haven't met her before, and reconnect with her if you have connected with Kelly before. So let's dive in and find out more about the journey of writing The Second Childhood. So Kelly, welcome to the Unbound Writers Club.
Thank you, Nicola. I'm excited to talk to you today.
Me too, me too. And I generally start these conversations with the same question, which is, what do you feel makes you an unbound writer? Like, is there a particular kind of old belief or story that you've liberated yourself from around writing? Is there something you're doing differently? What makes you unbound?
That's such a great question. I think there's a few things. First would be the content of my writing, which is pretty heretical in terms of asserting that women should, be taking over the world and kind of detailing the specific ways in which I think that should be done.
Mm-hmm.
And then also something that comes to mind is the length of my book. And I've got some comments, in the process of writing about, wow, this is a long book. And it got to me at first a little bit because I think, was this some kind of like passive aggressive criticism or like, what is this? And like, but it's like, it's not nearly as long as the Bible,
Yeah,
And
exactly.
like, do you like, sorry, does anyone mind if a woman kind of like goes on for a bit about something for once,
Yeah.
So I hope that people won't ever say that to a woman author ever again.
No.
Yeah. And I think that something that, part of the reason why it was so long is I've held a lot in for so long. I've always written a lot, but I've not shared a lot, most of my writing.
Mm.
And so I was even surprised by how much, came through. And with everything that I've written, I still thought, it's not really enough. It's not enough for writing a book. It's not somehow, and I couldn't justify that really. It's just sort of this idea that, women are generally have that like, whatever I am, it's not enough for a book. Whatever
Mm.
that is, that's not me. And, I threw away journals and that probably could have been published and all this kind of thing, waiting for kind of hoping that someone else would find them and publish them, which I wrote about that a little bit in the book. And part of this journey for me of being an unbound writer was realizing I didn't really need permission from someone else to write it. Someone might give it to me, but I didn't need to wait for that. I
Yeah.
could decide that I was worthy of, the paper to write, to speak, to be heard.
Yeah.
And in the end, I did sort of have permission or an invitation from the Unbound Press to become a published author, but I didn't need that so much as permission, although it helped a great deal. I needed the accountability.
Yeah.
And I can tell you, I wouldn't have written the book without you all. But but it wasn't the you that I needed, you
Yeah.
know? So, yeah.
Totally get that. Totally get that. And thank you for speaking to that piece around the length, the size of your book, because this comes up a lot. Often in conversation with women, they'll be speaking and then they'll go, "Oh, hang on, I'm waffling," or "This is too much." So it's like, "Oh, I need to shut up now. I need to zip it." It can come up when we're speaking and it can come up when we're writing. And what was
Mm.
coming through for me as you were speaking there, it's like, we need women to be like allowing their voices, like the fullness of their voices, and creating something substantial. Like, I love the feel of your book. I've got it in front of me, and it's like, yeah,
Ah,
it feels substantial. I love that about it. So thank you for naming that.
oh yeah, I'm glad that resonated. Yeah.
Yeah. I want to talk about how you got started with writing your book, because you spoke a little bit there about permission. And when we first connected, you were part of the like annual Unbound Writing Challenge that I host, and we ran a competition for someone to win a publishing package with us at the Unbound Press. And you wrote a piece that was like literally, it was unanimous. I can't say that word. Unanimous that you would get the publishing package, because it was so
Wow.
potent, so different. It's myself and a couple of other members of the team at the Unbound Press decided on that. So, we invited you to write a book with us, but had the book been bubbling for a while before that? Like, how did you get started? And with this particular idea as well?
Well, yeah. So there were different parts of getting started. There was like
Yeah.
getting started mentally, which happened, as much as maybe 15 years ago when a friend said, "Oh, you should write a book." And
Mm.
I was like, "Yeah, right," but very flattered, but and then a few other people, along the way who heard my story and were like, "Oh, you should write a book." And I was like, "Oh, yeah, I bet you say that to everybody." And then actually getting started writing a book, I would say, was with that essay contest,
Mm.
because that essay, made it into the second childhood, because it was just so central in introducing everything that was ended up in the book.
Mm.
So that essay contest really helped me clarify, it was the beginning of me, not the beginning of me taking authorship in my story, but the beginning of me, I don't know, writing it as for like an audience I didn't know really, in
Mm.
this specific way. So
Yeah. Yeah. That was like the seed of the book, would you say, that essay?
yes, yeah, yeah, well said. Yeah, the seed.
Yeah. Yeah. And how did you navigate the writing process? Because, like, Kelly, you're somebody who lives, I just think you're such an amazing example of living in an unbound way. You travel, you spend time in different places, you're a mother, you run a business, like, you're doing all the things. Someone literally asked me this morning, like, how do women do that? How do women write books, like, bring up a family, run a business, grow a following, all the things? Like, how did you navigate that journey through the writing process?
That's a good question. So part of it for sure is this intentional lifestyle design that I
Mm.
created around, after I had a burnout from this normal working world, which is a big part of what I write about in my book is, structuring this working life that worked for me,
Yeah.
and, how other women could do that as well according to their own needs and preferences and things like that. So that was a big thing. I'd been traveling for, I think it's been 8 years or so that I've been working online
Mm.
and running a business that way, and working in a way that, or arranging my business in a way that, it's not completely in control of my life, that the business is providing me with the lifestyle I want and not demanding things of me that cause a lot of stress. And this did take some experimentation, of course. I've had different business models, that some that provided passive income, but then occasional just nerve-wracking emergencies. And anyway, it's been like a whole process of figuring that out. But
Mm.
by the time I was writing this book, I had it pretty much so that I was like cruising, and I did manifest this amazing financial support so that I could fully just take time off and just be and write.
Mm.
And I shared about that in my book as well, how that came about and sort of my manifestation process
Mm.
around that. And I think what it really comes down to is like unpacking mentally, what are the things that I've been told I need to do every day or generally in life? And what are the things that I actually need to do in order to have the things that I want?
Yeah.
because I found I didn't actually want, all of the things that come with, full-time work and or working for a company with it, like a lot of digital nomads do, and all of this that like really wasn't, and I didn't need everything that would have offered me. I chose, well, what do I need? What do I want? And what do I have to do to get that? So kind of taking back control over this the economic structure of my life.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's absolutely the main thing. And women, when they ask, how are you able to do all this? That's the main thing they want to know. Is like, where do you get the money? Because that's the main thing that is often keeping women stuck in relationships and jobs that drain them in these kind of parasitic connections.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And something you talk about in the book. So love that. Love that. Did you experience any particular like fears or doubts that came up through the writing process?
Oh, so many. Yeah, it was.
I'm waiting for somebody to go, no, not really, but it never happens.
No, like that was my default state, fear and
Yeah.
doubt, and that's something I had to learn to work with on a new level in writing this book, because I was committed to writing this book, and I couldn't listen to the fears and doubts. I had to externalize them and be like, okay, this is not me. This is not what's going to be in charge here.
Mm.
But I mean, so many fears, just fears that people wouldn't read the book, fears that people would read the book, uh, you know, fears about making even little tiny mistakes. Sometimes my perspective would actually shift a little bit through the writing process, and I'd be
Mm.
like, oh, do I go back and change that, or do I just leave it? So a lot of kind of, writing for me is a very transformative process. And when you're trying to put something on paper, then that can be a bit, I don't know, crazy making, because you're
Yeah.
like, and like the history of oral tradition is so much more fluid and forgiving in a way, because a book, it feels like you're really committing, and the way that culture is nowadays, where people like to take something you've written and be like, hold it against you,
Mm.
or not acknowledge that, this is just something that came to you at a moment in time. And I don't know, I had to learn how to let go of all of that in advance. And I think I benefit from a kind of shamelessness or recklessness that allowed me to do that.
Mm. Yeah. 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 So almost that intentional shamelessness, recklessness to enable you to move through those particular fears and doubts.
Yeah. But then also it was more of like, I feel like I'm here to live a big life, whatever that
Yeah.
means, even if
Yeah.
that means failure on a massive scale, or I'm here for that. I want to experience all that life has to offer, even if it doesn't feel good. I don't want to leave with any regrets or wondering, oh, I wonder if what would have happened if I'd done that. And so for me, it was also kind of just this curiosity of like, I want to know what happens next in my story. And if I don't write this book, then nothing happens, nothing changes. And some people, maybe who have more of a stable, I don't know, some people are different and they want things, they like, if things are fine, they don't mess with it. But
Mm.
that's, you know,
Yeah.
for better or for worse, that's not me. So,
No, it's not me either.
yeah.
That is not the Unbound way. It's not like, oh,
Yeah.
things are fine. I'm just gonna
I was
like
going
keep
to stir the
everything.
cauldron a little bit more. Yeah.
Exactly. I wonder what would happen if I do this. Right. Okay.
Yeah.
And then why did I do this? But okay, I'm gonna go with it. Um,
Yeah.
so how is it for you now, Kelly? The second childhood is out in the world, working its magic, landing with readers. How does that feel?
I think, to be honest, it feels like a little bit anticlimactic right
Yeah.
now. I think
Yeah.
because the book has just been published,
Yeah.
and I'm sort of like waiting for more of a response. From the response I have, every single, the feedback I've gotten from the book from people who have read it has been just amazing and just completely blown my mind. Like, it just, which, going back to the fears and doubts, I'm like, wow, did they read the same book that I wrote? Because um Yeah, I feel like I'm in kind of a waiting period where,
Mm,
to be honest, I want more of that. I can't wait for people to read the book and to hear how it impacts them. And so there's maybe anticipation and, longing for impact and just but being patient as well, because I know I'm not like super aggressively marketing the book. I'm doing my best, but I think, as I tend to do now with things, working with my natural energy, and if I don't feel it really arising from me naturally to share about the book and all this, like, I'm not going to push myself to do it, because I'm
mm.
going to trust in the timing of the universe and all of this to get the book out there. And I think it's going to be maybe like a word of mouth type of thing. So
Yeah.
yeah, we're waiting and seeing, and I've got to move on to you know put energy into other areas of my life right now and just not watch the pot
Yeah.
boil, or
Oh,
so
yeah.
they say. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that feeling of like anticlimax is so like so common as well. I've definitely experienced it with my own
Oh,
books.
good.
And
Okay.
it's good to speak to it, because I think sometimes we can think, oh, what's wrong with me? Like this like huge thing that I've wanted to do for ages, and it's now kind of reached this point of completion and going out into the world. Like, why do I feel differently? But it's a big thing to birth a book into the world, and it can take a while to actually really be present with it, and also, like you say, for the feedback to start coming in as well. So I'm just loving seeing your cat there with you as we're
Oh,
recording.
yeah.
Kelly's cat is like being very, very present here with us. It's gorgeous.
It's almost her lunchtime, so
Uh,
she's,
Okay, okay,
okay,
okay.
almost, I mean, 45 minutes away, so yeah, she's very
It's close enough.
yeah.
Do you have a sense of what's next for you, Kelly? Now the second childhood is out in the world, what your next focus will be?
Yeah. Yeah, I've got a few things going on. I'm sort of, working with kind of the natural calendar of where April is the season of beginning, so I'm trying not to
Yeah,
force anything yet. I've been doing stand-up comedy here in the Netherlands, and that's sort
amazing.
of, that's just really fun and a great way to have a, regular creative expression at my fingertips. And I'm working on some frameworks actually that I think could be like performances for, maybe schools, parents, things like this, around empowerment themes and boundaries and consent, and some of the building on the frameworks that I've shared in the second childhood,
Mm,
putting them in a format where it could be shared widely and made accessible to, certain audiences. I don't know, it's still coming together, so I'm really not sure yet, but that's sort of like brewing, I guess,
yeah, love
I'd
that.
say.
Love
Yeah.
that. Yeah, yeah. Like what the book gets to become. Very exciting. Very exciting. For anyone listening to this who is either feeling the call to write a book or has begun and is in the process at the moment, what one piece of advice would you give to someone, Kelly?
Well, I guess the advice could be the opposite for someone depending on, who they are and what their sort
Totally.
of specific neuroses are. So, with that said, I would
Yeah.
say the most important thing for me has been to keep showing up. And but that's largely because I tend to have an avoidant relationship with my creative work.
Hmm.
So, but I've also had to balance that with, not trying to force things. So it's not really so simple, but I think something that occurred to me also is that just go working through all of the fears and doubts of writing something deeply personal and, that goes against social norms, is that I've had to kind of trick myself into writing it by writing the book pretending as if no one will read it,
Yeah.
but also writing as if I know that it could change the world if someone did,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. We kind of have to hold all of those contradictions, don't we, as we're writing? Like you say, like writing as if no one else is going to read it, but also with that knowing that it
yeah.
gets to change the world. And also, that dance between the part of us that doesn't want to show up. Like, I totally get that. I've got like strong avoidant tendencies in all sorts of areas of my life. Uh,
Yeah.
So yeah, I've heard someone else describe the writing process as like we have to trick ourselves in like different ways. So I love that. I love that. For those
Yeah.
listening, Kelly, who are wanting to find out more about you and your work and obviously the second childhood, what is the best way for them to connect with you?
I would say Facebook and Instagram,
Yeah,
probably. And then there's stuff on thesecondchildhood.net. But I think for people who want the most alive versions of me, social media is the place.
perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. We'll make sure the links are in the show notes. Oh, Kelly, it's been so good to have this conversation today. It makes me want to go and read The Second Childhood all over again. So I think I
Yeah.
might do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. I'm so grateful that we got to hold space for this journey for you and the second childhood, and that you're part of the Unbound Press family of authors. So thank you.
Thanks so much, Nicola.